Smoke folds across the hedgerows, thick as oil and stinking of burned rubber. Sergeant Bill Harker's Sherman lurches over a ditch, the world shaking under its treads. Shells whistle overhead. Then one hits home, exploding near enough to throw Red against the turret wall. Inside, it's chaos. Metal clanging, men shouting, the hiss of steam where coolant leaks. Bill yells for Jimmy to reload, his voice cracking as the gun groans under pressure. Through his cracked periscope, he sees a Panzer crouched behind a barn, its barrel already turning toward them. The memory flashes, his old crew burning alive last spring, the turret sealed in molten steel. But this time, something's different. The shell slams into their hull, and instead of fire, there's only smoke. Wet, choking, but survivable. We're still here, Red mutters, eyes wide with disbelief. Outside, Otto Reinhardt watches from his Panzer's slit sight, waiting for the Sherman to burst into flames. And it doesn't. His loader curses, confused. Otto frowns, heart pounding. What have they changed? He whispers, his words lost under the next roar of guns. And for the first time, the German doubts his own armor. The rain starts slow, fat, drops hissing as they hit the tank's armor. The smell of smoke and cordite still hangs heavy. Bill sits half out the commander's hatch, breathing the wet air like it's the first real thing in out. Red wipes black grease from his face, muttering about how the round should have cooked them alive. Jimmy just stares at the dented shell casing lodged near the floor. Wet stowage, Bill says quietly, as if testing the words. New tanks got it. Ammo sits in water jackets now. Red laughs without humor. So we drown instead of burn. Outside, the field crackles with distant gunfire. Across the hedgerow, Otto's crew watches smoke curl from the Sherman, expecting flames that never come. Dieter smirks, Americans and their fancy tricks. Otto doesn't answer. He keeps staring through the glass. A knot forming in his chest. Tricks don't save men from steel, he says. But the certainty sounds hollow. The night falls thick and cold. The battlefield lit only by the glow of burning wrecks in the distance. Bill's crew huddles near the Sherman, boiling coffee over a small stove, their faces lit orange in the dark. Red talks about his old tank, how it went up like a furnace after one hit near St. Lo. Jimmy listens quietly, his hands shaking as he holds the tin cup. You think the Krauts know? He asks. Bill shakes his head. They'll find out. Meanwhile, Otto and Dieter sit inside their Panzer, engine idling low, listening to the rain patter on steel. Dieter chuckles. You saw their tank? Maybe they filled it with soup instead of shells. Otto doesn't laugh. He keeps staring at the map spread on his lap, tracing the line between them and the Americans. Next time we meet, he says, we'll see whose machine is ballistic. Dawn breaks with artillery thunder. Orders crackle through the radio. Push east, cut the German supply route. Bill swings into the commander's seat, the engine roaring to life beneath him. Mud sprays behind the tracks as the Sherman grinds forward. In the Panzer line across the valley, Otto hears the approaching armor. He signals his crew, eyes narrowing, positions. No mistakes, the first exchange comes sudden. A flash, a whistle, the tearing of air. The Sherman's gun roars back, shaking its frame. Dirt erupts between them, a rhythm of death in mechanical beats. Red calls targets, Jimmy loads, Bill adjusts for range. Inside the Panzer, Otto grips the controls, whispering something under his breath. Maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. For a moment, it feels like two beasts circling, neither knowing which will draw blood first. A direct hit slams into the Sherman's front plate, ringing like a church bell. The tank rocks, smoke filling the interior, but no fire comes. Bill coughs, waving his hand through the haze. Report, Red checks the ammo racks, water sloshing inside the compartments. Still good. Jimmy, trembling, touches the armor where it's glowing, faintly red. "That should have killed us," he whispers. Bill just nods, his voice low. "Used to." Across the field, Otto stares through the scope, disbelief on his face. "Impossible," he murmurs. Dieter looks at him uneasy now. Maybe they found a way not to die? Otto's hand tightens on the periscope. "Then, God help us all," he says quietly. For a brief second, through the drifting smoke, both men, commander to commander, lock eyes across the no-man's land of mud and flame. The rain has turned to mist, blanketing the valley in a quiet that feels almost wrong. Bill leans against the Sherman's hull, running a hand over the scorched armor. The metal is pocked and bruised, but alive, just like them. Red and Jimmy work in silence, cleaning the barrel, checking seals. "Yes, we're tougher now," Red mutters. Bill shakes his head. "The tank's tougher. We're just along for the ride." Across the line, Otto's panzer crew studies wreckage left behind by the retreating Americans. Dieter kicks at a burned-out Sherman, sneering. "So this is their miracle machine," he says. Otto crouches beside the open hatch, peering in. The interior is blackened, but not charred. No bodies, no stench of cooked flesh. Only empty seats. His jaw tightens. "They lived," he says softly. The words hang in the air like an accusation. Later that morning, the Americans regroup near a shattered barn. Rainwater runs in small rivers beneath their boots. Command gives orders, push forward again. Bill's crew sits under a ripped tarp, eating cold rations. Jimmy speaks up, voice small. "Why'd they change it, sir? The water thing?" Bill glances up. "Because too many of us burned." Red nods slowly, his jaw tightening. "Back then, one hit, and it was over. Now," he trails off, staring at the ground, "now we get to keep fighting." The silence that follows feels heavy. Across the valley, Otto's men joke over breakfast. Dieter mimics an American accent. "Our tank don't burn no more." The laughter is forced. Otto watches him, eyes cold. "Mock them if you want," he says. "But you laugh at men who no longer fear fire." By midday, the two forces circle each other again, the front shifting in chaos. Bill's radio crackles. German armor ahead. The crew braces. Inside the panzer, Otto's men spot movement in the tree line. "Sherman," Dieter whispers. Otto nods, leveling his sights. The first exchange erupts, thunder rolling over the fields. Shells rip through trees, dirt, and bodies. One Sherman explodes into a fiery bloom, an older model. The next hit in the same spot, only smokes and stalls. Otto freezes, watching the crew climb out, alive. "Impossible," he breathes. Bill's voice cuts through static on his own radio. "They're learning, boys. But so are we." After the clash, Otto's crew hides in the ruins of a farmhouse. Rain leaks through the broken roof, dripping onto steel and sweat. Dieter breaks the silence. "They build tanks like coffins," he says. Otto looks at him sharply. "No," he answers. "They build them to cheat death." Outside, Bill's crew tends to their machine. Red runs a rag along the breach, shaking his head. "They used to call us death traps," he says. Bill nods slowly, eyes on the horizon. Now maybe they'll have to find another name. The sky rumbles again, but neither side moves. For a brief moment, it's as if both crews, separated by war, share the same exhausted breath, the same fragile relief of still being alive. Night again. The guns fall silent. Bill lies awake on the tank's hull, staring at the stars behind drifting smoke. "Never thought I'd thank water," he murmurs. Red, sitting below, chuckles softly. "Yes, God's found a strange way to keep us breathing." Jimmy hums an old song under his breath, a lullaby from home. Across the dark field, Otto writes in a small notebook by lantern light. His words are steady but heavy. They have learned not to burn. We have learned to envy them. He pauses, looking out the slit of the turret at the faint silhouettes of enemy tanks. War changes machines, he whispers, but it changes men more. The morning begins with thunder that isn't from the sky. Artillery pounds the ridges as the American line pushes forward again. Bill's tank rumbles through the mud, every man inside knowing today feels different, heavier, final. Red hums under his breath, an old tune from before the war, while Jimmy checks each round like they're prayers instead of shells. You ever think we'll see home again? Jimmy asks. Bill doesn't answer. Instead, he looks through the periscope. The German line hidden behind the fog. Somewhere out there, inside his Panzer, Otto listens to the same rumble, jaw locked. They're coming, he says. Dieter grips his loader's lever, and we'll be ready. But Otto's voice drops lower. No one's ever ready. The two machines move closer. Two beasts drawn by the same unspoken fate, steam rising like ghosts around them. The first clash tears through the stillness like thunder splitting a storm. The Sherman's gun fires, recoil slamming through the hull. The shell misses, kicking dirt beside a German tank. Return fire screams past them, the shock wave slamming into the armor like a hammer. Traverse left! Bill shouts. Bill shouts. Red adjusts, sweat streaking his temples. Jimmy reloads, hands trembling. Up! He yells. The shot hits this time, the Panzer's flank bursting in sparks but not breaking. Otto's head snaps sideways, the sound deafening. Hit, but not breached. Dieter shouts. Otto steadies his breathing. Fire again. The two tanks trade blows like boxers who refuse to fall. Every shell, every breath, another heartbeat in the rhythm of hell. An explosion ahead rocks the earth. Another Sherman burns, its turret blown apart, flames licking at the sky. Bill watches the crew crawl out. Two alive, one not moving. Keep driving, he orders, though his throat tightens. Inside the Panzer, Otto sees the same burning tank through his scope. He lowers it, exhaling slowly. They still burn, Dieter says quietly. Otto answers, not all of them. He stares at his reflection in the gun's brass shell casing. Maybe that's worse. The air thickens with smoke, visibility fading. Tanks move like shadows through fog. Hunting, haunted, half human, half machine. The war feels endless, but both crews know they're circling closer to one another, fate pulling them in like magnets. Rain starts again, cooling the metal but not the fear. The battlefield turns to sludge, tanks bogging down, engines whining under strain. Bill's crew hunkers inside, breathing smoke and oil. The next hit shakes them, not a direct one, but close enough to send tools flying. She's still moving, Red shouts. Barely, Bill answers. Otto's Panzer edges closer through the mud, tracking their movement. One more hit, Otto says. But as he watches through the fog, he sees the Shermans stagger, but not ignite. They don't burn, he mutters again, almost in awe. Dieter's tone softens. Maybe they're lucky. Otto shakes his head. No, they just get to remember longer. The battle fades into silence. Not peace, just exhaustion. Tanks rest like wounded animals across the field. Bill climbs out, boots sinking into mud. He looks toward the smoke where other Shermans lie in pieces, some still burning, some not. Red joins him, breathing heavy. We're still here, he says. Bill nods, staring at the horizon. Yeah, but for how long? On the opposite ridge, Otto exits his Panzer, helmet tucked under his arm. The fog parts just enough for him to see the American tank through the distance. Neither man raises a weapon. For a long moment, they simply look at one another. Two commanders bound by the same question war always asks. What keeps a man alive when everything else is built to kill him? The morning after the storm feels like the world's holding its breath. The rain stopped, but the sky stays gray, colorless, hollow. Otto sits on the edge of his Panzer's hatch, staring at the wreck of a Sherman not far off. It's still smoking, armor cracked, but its hatch is open. He climbs down and walks to it, gun drawn just in case. Inside are blood-stains, gear, and the faint smell of steam instead of fire. The crew is gone. He runs his hand across the seats. No scorch marks, just emptiness. Dieter watches from the Panzer, uneasy. They got out, Otto says quietly. Walked away. He looks up at the clouds, hearing distant thunder that isn't weather. If their steel can forgive fire, he murmurs, what does ours forgive? Elsewhere on the field, Bill's Sherman creaks to a halt behind a hedgerow. The radio spits static, their flanks in retreat. Red rubs his temples, tired beyond measure. We're holding nothing, he mutters. Bill doesn't answer. He watches the horizon through the periscope, knowing the Germans will regroup. Jimmy whispers, maybe they're scared too. Bill lowers the scope and looks at him. Fear's the only thing that keeps us alive. Across the field, Otto climbs back into his Panzer, still silent. Dieter senses it. You're thinking too much again. Otto glances toward the smoke, then down at his hands. I saw them survive, he says. A tank hit, burning, and they climbed out. He shakes his head, voice almost breaking. How do you fight men who stop dying? The next skirmish erupts without warning. A thunderclap of engines and fire. Bill's crew locks in, hearts pounding. Target ahead, left ridge. Red calls out. Fire! The gun bucks. The shot tearing through a German Haupttrack. Hit! Jimmy cheers, but the victory dies as another shell slams into their side. The tank rocks, smoke flooding in, alarms wailing, and again, no fire. Still breathing, Bill yells, coughing. Across the ridge, Otto fires and reloads, eyes wild. But when his shell lands, the Sherman doesn't burn. It keeps coming. He watches in disbelief as it rolls closer, gun leveled. Unstoppable. They don't die, he mutters. Dieter looks at him. Then what are we fighting for? Otto has no answer. After hours of battle, the fighting slows. Smoke lies heavy, muffling every sound. Otto steps out of his Panzer, pistol ready, scanning the haze. He sees movement. A Sherman, crippled but alive, crew climbing out. His finger tenses on the trigger, but he doesn't fire. Bill turns, spotting the figure in gray across the smoke. Their eyes meet through the drifting haze. One moment of stillness between enemies who have both survived too much. Neither raises a weapon. The silence is louder than gunfire. Then Bill gestures slow and simple, not surrender, not threat, just acknowledgement. Otto lowers his pistol. For the first time, he feels something strange. Respect. Night falls over the battlefield once more. The fires fade, leaving only embers glowing in puddles of rainwater. Otto writes in his notebook, the words shaking with fatigue. We thought we were masters of steel, but their tanks taught us humility. They built for mercy, not glory. He pauses, listening to the wind carry distant voices. Men calling for medics, for water, for home. Bill's crew rest beside their Sherman, too tired to speak. Red breaks the silence. You think they'll ever stop shooting? Bill looks up at the stars, the smoke hiding half of them. Maybe, he says quietly, when we stop needing to prove who burns slower. Otto closes his notebook and whispers, maybe that's the truth. The world wakes up to thunder again. Not weather, not mercy, just artillery. The sky is a dull bruise, lit by the flash of shells. Bill's crew rolls forward under the barrage, their Sherman groaning like an old beast pushed too far. Jimmy grips his seat, whispering a prayer. Red adjusts his sight, voice steady. One shell at a time? Bill nods, his tone quiet but sharp. Keep her breathing. Across the ridge, Otto's Panzer lies in wait. engines rumbling low. Dieter peers through the slit, muttering, "We're outnumbered." Otto's voice is low, calm. So are they. When the first shell lands between them, mud and steel explode skyward. For a heartbeat, it's impossible to tell who's winning or who's left. The ground shakes like it's alive. Bill's tank jolts left, a near miss showering them in dirt. "Hit back!" he shouts. Red fires. The recoil slams them hard enough to rattle their bones. The round connects. Sparks burst off a Panzer's side. Across the fog, Otto feels the impact, teeth clenched. "They're learning," Dieter says. Otto exhales. "Steady. So are we." He fires again. The shell skims the Sherman's rear, exploding in a wall of mud. Inside, Jimmy gasps. "That was close." Red smirks through the noise. "Close don't count if we're still breathing." Bill grins, the first flicker of life in his eyes all day. "Then let's keep breathing." Hours pass. The battlefield is unrecognizable. Just twisted metal and smoke thick enough to taste. Bill's Sherman crawls through wreckage, treads crunching over broken parts of what used to be other tanks. Jimmy's voice cracks. "We're the last one moving." Bill answers softly. "Then we finish it." Across the ruins, Otto's Panzer limps forward, its left tread damaged. "Fuel's low," Dieter warns. Otto nods, scanning the haze. "We find them first, or they find us." Both crews move toward the same shattered crossroads, unaware how close they are. When they finally meet, guns already aimed. Something in the silence holds them both. The understanding that they've been chasing each other through hell, just to prove who would survive. The guns don't fire, not right away. Bill's finger hovers over the trigger. Otto's hand tightens on the lever. A heartbeat passes. 2. Then another shell explodes nearby, sending a shockwave that knocks both tanks askew. When the dust clears, Bill climbs halfway out, waving his arm. Otto hesitates, then steps out too. They stare across the distance. Enemies no longer. Just men surrounded by the wreckage of what they once believed it. Red calls from below. "Bill, what the hell are you doing?" Bill's voice is hoarse, just making sure he's real. Otto lowers his pistol. "You are," he says quietly. The sky rumbles again, but neither man moves. The rain starts again, soft at first, then steady. It hisses over the metal, washing soot and blood into the mud. Bill sits on the tank's side, helmet off, breathing hard. Red rests against the tread, too tired to speak. Jimmy's eyes are distant, fixed on nothing. Across the clearing, Otto and Dieter shelter under the Panzer's turret. Neither side fires, neither retreats. They just sit in the rain. Men who fought so long they've forgotten why. Bill looks up at the gray clouds and says quietly, "Maybe the war's waiting for us to stop." Otto hears it through the distance, though no one could. He closes his eyes and repeats the same words under his breath. The fog never lifts. Morning comes gray and silent, the battlefield still steaming from the night's rain. Bill and his crew move on foot now. Their Sherman dead, tracks half buried in the mud. Red shoulders his rifle. "Feels wrong leaving her behind," he mutters. Bill nods but keeps walking. "She kept us alive. That's enough." A few hundred yards away, Otto's Panzer sits in a ditch, engine seized. He and Dieter scavenge nearby, searching for supplies among the ruins. Fate pulls them closer, both groups unaware they're heading toward the same farmhouse that stands crooked in the mist, the same ruin that's about to become their last refuge. Inside the ruined farmhouse, the air smells of damp wood and gunpowder. Bill enters cautiously, rifle raised, Red behind him, Jimmy scanning the shadows. "Clear," Red whispers, but the echo betrays them. Otto turns at the sound from the other side of the same room, weapon drawn. For a frozen second time, stops. 5 soldiers, 2 sides, 1 room. "Don't shoot," Bill shouts. Otto hesitates, breathing hard. His pistol wavers. Dieter aims at Red. Jimmy lifts his rifle. The silence trembles on a knife's edge. Then a shell lands nearby, shaking the walls, collapsing part of the roof. Everyone dives for cover. Dust fills the air. Chaos, but no gunfire between them. When it clears, Otto lowers his weapon first. "We live," he says, voice rough. "For now," Bill replies. The shelling fades outside. No one moves. Bill lowers his rifle first, slow and deliberate. "We don't have to die here," he says. Otto studies him, searching for deceit but finding none. Dieter mutters, "They'll hang us if they see this." Otto answers quietly, "Then we make sure no one does." Red leans back against the wall, exhaling hard. "Never thought I'd share a roof with the guys shooting at me." Otto's mouth twitches, the faintest trace of a smile. War changes plans. For a moment there's no enemy, just 5 men who've run out of bullets and luck, surrounded by the ghosts of everything they've already lost. Later, the 5 men share the silence as if it's the last thing left in the world. Red lights a cigarette and passes it across the room. Dieter hesitates, then takes a drag before handing it to Bill. No one speaks. Outside, distant gunfire murmurs like thunder, far away but never gone. Otto breaks the quiet first. "We laughed at your wet stowage," he says. "We thought it was weakness." Bill meets his eyes. "It wasn't weakness. It was mercy." Otto nods slowly, the words sinking deeper than he expected. "Mercy," he repeats, almost to himself. For a man who's spent his life believing armor made him invincible, the truth feels heavier than any shell. When dawn comes again, the war returns with it. Tanks rumble in the distance. Neither American nor German, just thunder with no name. The 5 men rise. They know this peace won't last. Bill slings his rifle. Otto holsters his pistol. "We walk opposite ways," Bill says. Otto nods. "And we forget this?" Bill shakes his head. "No. We remember it's possible." They stand for a moment longer, faces drawn, tired, human. Then they part. 2 heading east, 3 heading west, fading into fog that swallows everything but the echo of shared survival. The farmhouse stands behind them, empty but alive with the memory of men who for one night stopped being enemies. The war ends not with thunder but with silence. Fields once split by fire are now still, littered with rusting machines half buried in mud. Bill stands beside what remains of his Sherman, its armor now dulled and cold. Red joins him, running a hand over the hull. "Guess she finally earned her rest," he says. Jimmy kneels nearby, tracing the engraved serial number with his finger. "She didn't burn." Bill smiles faintly. "None of us did." Somewhere miles away, a bell rings. Victory or remembrance. No one's sure. The quiet feels strange after so much noise, like the world is trying to remember what peace sounds like. Across the continent, Otto walks along a scrapyard filled with broken tanks. German, American, all stripped of their symbols. He wears civilian clothes now. The war gone, but not forgotten. Dieter follows a few steps behind, his arm in a sling. "They melt them down for tractors," he mutters. Otto nods. Maybe that's what they should been all along. He stops beside a twisted Sherman hull, touches its surface. "This one lived," he murmurs. Dieter tilts his head. "How can you tell?" Otto's eyes soften. "Because I saw it once. It burned. And still it breathed." Months later, Bill sits in a quiet bar back home, the laughter of civilians feeling almost foreign. Red's there too, cleaner now, hair trimmed short but eyes still shadowed. Jimmy nurses a glass of soda, too young for the whiskey. "You ever miss it?" Jimmy asks. Red shakes his head. "You don't miss hell. You just remember how hot it was." Bill stares out the window, rain tracing lines down the glass. "Otto," he says softly, surprising himself. Red frowns. "Who?" Bill smiles faintly. "Just a man I never got to hate." Outside, thunder rumbles far away. but it sounds more like rain this time. In a quiet German village, Otto writes by candlelight in a worn notebook. His words are careful, deliberate. The Americans built tanks that carried water to fight fire. They built mercy into their machines. I used to think strength was in the armor. Now I know it's in what that armor protects. He closes the book, looks out the window at the still countryside. Children play where soldiers once marched. Dieter's laughter drifts in from outside, light and easy. Otto breathes deeply, eyes on the horizon. We mock them, he whispers, and they taught us to live. Years later, the fields have healed. The grass hides the scars, and the sky seems brighter than it should be. Bill returns to France with his family, walking through what's now just farmland. He stops where his tank once stood, nothing left but soil and wildflowers. He kneels, brushing his hand over the earth. You remember it too, don't you? He murmurs to no one. A few miles away, Otto walks those same hills alone, older now, gray in his beard. He pauses, feeling something familiar in the wind. A quiet connection that time never broke. As the breeze passes over both men, across countries and years, it carries one silent truth. Steel may forget, but men remember.